I'm here today with Mehmet Yavuz, CTO of Celona, and we're recording our first office hours episode from our homes during quarantine. And you can see only one of us has a nice haircut. I can't wait for the day when someone doesn't remember either of those issues, but here we are. Office hours is our opportunity to hear from Mehmet on the technical details of private mobile networks, 5G, and the wider technology industry. I am your host, Greg Yautman, your friendly neighborhood marketing guy from Celona. I'm ready to ask the fun, tough questions, and mostly just want to get to the real story behind what's going on to Celona and the wider industry. So with that, Mehmet, I had something that was on my mind for the last week, and that is 4G, LTE, and the various flavors of 5G, whether it's 5GE, 5G, 5G Plus, and who knows what else is out there. I mean, did I miss anything?
I'm sure you did, but well, first of all, thanks for coming to the office hour. And yeah, it's a lot of confusion out there, and thanks for asking that question. And I'll try to give some insight for those different terms and technologies and so forth. So basically, LTE stands for long-term evolution, and that started in around 2008. And it has been driven by the standards organization 3GPP. And it has been deployed for more than a decade in the field. And then more recently, basically what happened is this organization called ITU came up with a recommendation and requirements for the new technology 5G. And they put certain requirements in terms of the data rate, for example, 20 gigabits per second downlink, 10 gigabits per second uplink, millisecond latency, and so forth. And they called this as 5G, the fifth generation. LTE was the fourth generation, 5G is the fifth generation. Now, within the 5G, the definition of the standard actually happened in a different organization, which is the 3GPP organization. And they defined this whole standards as 5G new radio, 5G NR. And so that is the official 3GPP term for the new technology. And there has been some, let's say, marketing and commercialization aspects of it. The initial marketing term was 5GE, really mainly by AT&T, and that stands for 5G evolution. But the underlying technology was really based on LTE with some enhancements such as 4x4 MIMO and 256 QAM modulation, maybe 3-carrier aggregation. But it was really based on LTE technology that was called 5GE. Now,
so let me ask you a question on that. So with 5GE, is it really by definition 5G, or is it an evolution on the top of 4G LTE? Is it kind of getting closer to 5G? Is that what that means?
Yeah, exactly. So that was the evolution of LTE getting close to 5G.
Okay.
But the official 5G is really with the new radio that's defined in 3GPP. It is the release 15 of 3GPP, and it brings a bunch of capabilities with a totally new radio. And this new radio has like 100 megahertz or more channelization. And it defines two frequency ranges, right? One range of frequency is in the lower band, so-called frequency range 1. It goes up to 6 gigahertz. They call it sometimes sub-6. That's the frequency range 1. Frequency range 2 is the millimeter wave. And that goes, 20 plus gigahertz frequency. And again, AT&T called this millimeter wave as 5G plus.
Okay.
That's a marketing term. But in general, both the sub-6 gigahertz and the millimeter range are two different parts of this 5G new radio that's defined. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but that's just explaining the lay of the land. And if you like, I can confuse you a little bit further. There's another variant of 5G, which is called 5G new radio unlicensed, 5G NRU. Right. And that is a variant of 5G that can operate not only in the licensed band, but also in unlicensed band, such as the 5 gigahertz or 6 gigahertz unlicensed band.
Yeah. Okay. So clearly, there's several flavors, and I suppose several uses across the 5G theme. So let's get a little bit closer to what you do, right? Let's talk about what is this driver. So what is driving Celona? What is driving the industry towards private LTE and 5G? And how is that happening, and why?
Yeah, great question. So let's take a step back, right? All this terminology and different acronyms and so forth, let's put that aside. I mean, if you look at the LTE technology, as I said, it's been around for quite some time, and it's been mainly used by mobile network operators in their licensed bands for macrocellular services, right? We all have smartphones, sometimes tablets, and some now IoT devices coming, but it's generally wide area coverage with large area mobility, with big base stations and so forth. So what has been going on in the recent years is to bring this technology to different enterprise use cases, to more mission critical, business critical type use cases that we see emerging in the enterprises. So this may be, some computer vision applications. They may be automated guided vehicles, maybe related to augmented reality or virtual reality applications, may be related to a bunch of IoT devices that's desired to be connected to a reliable network. So for all these applications, the key requirement is really reliability, predictability, quality of service, seamless mobility. And for all these requirements, LTE is the right technology. But the deployment model has not been very enterprise focused, right? Mm-hmm. So at Celona, what we're doing is we're bringing this great technology to the enterprise use cases in a way that can be deployed and operated somewhat like Wi-Fi, right? Plug and play deployment, easy to configure and manage. But when you simplify things, you should not give up from the technology capabilities, right? All these reliability, mobility, quality of service benefits, you want to preserve all of those and make it more automated for the deployment and operation. That's what we do.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair, and it being part of the business, I understand kind of where it's headed and what's happening. I try to keep on top of this stuff, but this is how I can ask the tough questions and make it seem like I'm just doing it as part of my role. But this helps me better do my job, I guess. The question that I have is, what is the difference for those who don't know, including myself, between the traditional 4G, LTE, 5G, and the private and flavor of private version of that? I mean, and why is that important for Celona or the enterprise?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question, Greg. And again, let's stick with the LTE for the time being, right? So the traditional model is a macrocellular deployment, typically, big towers, big base stations covering, miles of area, and you can use that in a wide area as a technology. But when we talk about private LTE or enterprise LTE, what we're really talking about is having small cells. They may be indoor small cells, they may be outdoor small cells, but they are deployed in a certain geographic region. So that may be a warehouse, that may be a retail big box store, it may be an enterprise building, it may be a transportation hub, maybe a manufacturing facility, but it is essentially an enterprise in a certain geographical region. And the infrastructure, such as the base stations or small cells, or we call them APs, are deployed locally. And the whole network infrastructure is such that it is dedicated to this enterprise. The core network, for example, may be on the enterprise premise or it may be in a data center. And the whole management and configuration can be done either through cloud or through some data center, where all of these pieces are under the full control of the enterprise IT or the managed service provider who may be managing this network. Again, similar to a Wi-Fi model.
Okay, so, I get that. I get that.
And then the deployment, again, is local. It's not a new set of cabling and infrastructure put in there. It is basically an overlay on top of the existing enterprise infrastructure. It uses the existing Ethernet cabling. It uses existing switches. It can use the existing routers to go on the backhaul. So no new cabling and other infrastructure needs to be deployed as part of that. So that's the LTE, and we can talk about the 5G a little bit too.
Okay. Well, I think, and actually speaking of 5G, one controversial question for you. Have you ever seen in your time researching or implementing 5G proof that it creates or transmits any viral diseases?
The answer is no.
Okay, that's
And
good.
it's kind of quite amusing, like to follow all these things going on.
Yes.
No viral diseases or no other diseases associated with 5G. I think one aspect, remember the millimeter wave aspect is quite new with 5G, and some people maybe found this as a new thing, and it's amazing what people can relate to in terms of what they see in their environment, and then just create some relations between different things happening around them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, on a serious note, no, there is no relation to any diseases that I know of with 5G. What 5G brings, on top of all the great things we talked about LTE, is really improving multiple aspects, right? It improves the data rates, it improves the reliability. For example, going from 4 to 5 nines reliability in LTE, you can go to 5 to 6 nines reliability. The latency in LTE, maybe you get 20, 30 millisecond latency. With 5G, you can now get 5 millisecond or lower latency values. Again, you have 100 megahertz of channels or up to 400 megahertz channel bandwidths with millimeter wave. So that brings you multi-gigabit data rates and so forth. So it's really enhancing the technology in multiple dimensions, and it's an evolution from LTE to 5G.
No, that's fantastic. No, it clearly, and I thank you for both clarifying the viral aspect of it and also the different terminology or the different flavors, especially of 5G. I think that is that's what I hope to get out of this particular clip, and I hope others get the same benefit from it. Just a better understanding of where we're going, where we're headed, and the terminology around it. I'd like to thank those who joined us to listen to Office Hours with Mehmet. If you do like our show, make sure that you like, subscribe, and tell your friends about it. We have more episodes coming soon. Until then, we'll speak to you later.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everyone.